Hi everyone. Now, it's not very common or even comfortable for me to make a video called Serum's Hidden Features. It sounds a little bit clickbaity to me. But then again, that's the goal of having a YouTube channel, I guess. The other reason I'm doing this, however, is that I recently finished a full 9-hour course on advanced synthesis with Serum. And while recording this course, it just reminded me how many features there are that this synth has that are very easy to miss. So I wanted to make a video showing some of these. If you want to get that full course, though, you can find the link in the description to this video. But first, let's just dive in and start with the locking feature. So Serum has this feature that I don't often see in other synths, which is the ability to lock parameters, modules, and modulation assignments so that they stay put when you change a patch. In other words, they will keep the same setting when you change presets. So we can find this in a couple of places, a little bit scattered around the synth. For one, there's the lock parameter. You can right-click on any parameter, such as the detuning, and you can lock that. You can click on the cutoff, and you can lock that one. But we can also do this with modules. So I can right click on oscillator A and I can lock that module, or on the noise oscillator, I could lock that as well, or the filter, and I can lock that as well. And then when you change patches, these will stay the same. You can see the noise oscillator, this oscillator, you can see the filter module is completely the same. So this is the reason this is here, is so that you can flip through presets, but you can keep some things consistent. And it's a very easy and quick way to come up with new sounds. And you can keep the things that you like and then scan through sounds to see what other things can be added to the sound. So you get completely new sounds that way, a very, very easy way of creating new sounds quickly. This is not the only one, though. Another one which is hiding in the menu right here, so we can lock the effect rack. You can see it's off right now. Now we can switch it on, so this effect rack should stay the same when I switch patches. And then in a different place, once again, in the matrix, if we click this top right arrow here, actually you have a lot of cool things here. You can, for example, sort by source, which will organize all your modulation assignments. But here we can also lock the matrix. And this, if we have an assignment such as envelope 2 controlling the, I don't know, what should we control? Fine tuning. We can now lock this stuff. And then if we move presets, you can see that the amounts will change, but the sources and the destinations, they will stay in place, which is a very nice thing. And then the last thing here is the tuning file. If you use a different tuning, or you use a different, if you tune A to a different note, you can lock that here as well, and it will also stay in place when you change presets. It's a very nice one. Experiment a little bit with this, especially locking the parameters and locking some modules. It can be a very nice approach to come up with new sounds. All right, so next up, duplicating LFOs. Let's initialize this sound again. Let's go with a little bit of detuning, and let's set up an LFO to control the cutoff there. By the way, changing from unipolar to bipolar, you can hold Shift and then Option and then click on the parameter. So now this is being controlled by this LFO. Let's make a little bit of a rhythm. Now what we can do with this LFO, we can duplicate that by holding Option and then dragging it to a different LFO. And you can see that now they are the same. Not very interesting, but can be a handy feature if you have, especially if you have complex LFO. The next one is more interesting though, LFO to wavetable. So what we can also do is we can create something in here, we can hold Option and we can drag this to an oscillator, and this will render this LFO to a wavetable. So now we can actually listen to the LFO. And this can be very nice if you have some complex LFOs, something like that perhaps. You can just take it and then drag it to an oscillator window. Let's actually hear what that sounds like. So that's actually one of my favorite features. Another one that I really like though is the ability to sync envelopes, and this one is really quite hidden. So what we can do is if we remove all the assignments here from the filter, let's say we want this envelope to be exactly a quarter note in length when we control the cutoff, for example. Right now we only see timing values, but what we can do is we can double click on here and we can type 1 and then /4 to make a beat division of a quarter note, and then it will calculate what a quarter note, how long it will be based on your host tempo. So my host tempo is now set to 90, and you can see that it corresponds to 667 milliseconds. If I set this to, for example, 70 BPM, and we do this again, 1/4, it will be 857 milliseconds. So now the decay is exactly 1 quarter note. Of course, we can do also 1 8 note, we can do 1 16th note, etc. I believe we can also do 1 dotted 8 note like this. Very cool stuff. So that brings me to the next point, which is the X and Y grid on the LFO. So as you can see, these LFOs, they have two lines on the background. They have the Y-axis, X-axis, I think that is, and the Y-axis. But on the grid here, we only see one value, which changes the horizontal axis, and it doesn't change the other one. You can see that it changes the other one, but we have no control over it. So it seems, because what we can do is we can double click on here and we can type 8 and then comma, and then we can type 12, and now the grid will be 8 by 12. And this is especially handy when you're using these LFOs to control pitch, for example. So let's say, let's just use oscillator A. Let's go to a MIDI region with just single notes, and then what we can do is we can right click in this oscillator window. We can change the shift key function to flat, and what that means is that if I hold shift and I draw my steps, they will be actually steps. You can also change it to ramp down, for example, but for now we're going to choose flat. And now if we use this to control the coarse tuning, and we go to the matrix, and I'll make this unipolar, I can set the grid to, let's say, 4 by 12, like so, and then I can change the rate a little bit, and then I can hold shift and I can hold option. So this will cause it to first draw steps, but those steps will snap to the grid lines, in this case to one of the 12 positions. So because of that, we can, if we want 2, 3, we can actually make melodies. And we can make sure that this stays within the a one full note within the octave. What we can hear right now though is that this goes up 2 octaves, and this brings me to the next point, which is the modulation range. So the modulation range, if you assign something to something, like what we just did, we assigned this LFO to the coarse tuning. And now if we go to the matrix and we double click on this amount slider, we can see that the value is set to 19, even though it goes up 2 octaves. So when I think 2 octaves, I think 24 semitones. But the thing with these sliders is that they move in percentages, not in semitones. So let's say, for example, we wanted to have this LFO be just 1 octave. We wanted to have a range of 1 octave over the coarse pitch. What we can do is we can double click on here and we can type 12 and then ST as a suffix. And what this is going to do is it's going to convert this percentage to an amount that corresponds to 12 semitones, which happens to be a percentage of 9. So now if we listen to this, and right now, because the grid is divided in 12 steps, we can do 8 by 12 as well. We can actually quickly find notes within a scale. So we can go 1, 2, 3 to get a minor third. We can go up an octave. We can go 2 there. We can go 6, 7 to get a fifth, and then maybe a minor seventh. So it's a very nice and easy way to make sequences. With the grid trick in combination with this, we can also now set this to minus 12 semitones, for example. All right, actually, while we're talking about the modulation matrix, one more small trick here that I actually didn't want to talk about, but since we're here anyway, what you can do is you can also, if this LFO1 is assigned to multiple things, let's do the random stuff like this and this and this, you can also change this out for a different source. Let's say you want to assign all of this to the mod wheel, for example. What you can do is you can hold Option again, you can click on one of them, you can change it to a new, what did we say, mod wheel, you can change it to something new, and they will all change as long as you keep Option pressed down. All right, next up, this is kind of a new one, which is Hybridize. And we can find this in the preset browser. If we go in here and we search for something, let's say we want to see all key sounds, effect sounds, sequences, sawtooth, let's do that. What we can do is we can go to the menu right here and we can choose Hybridize. And what this will do is it will create a new preset based on these 4 presets here. So if we choose that, you can see that the name changes and it will add all of these presets together to a new sound. Now there's more synths that have this feature, but with Serum I more often get good results. Like with a lot of it just becomes chaos when you do this, because it will just randomly select parameters and then combine them together. But Serum sometimes can actually get some pretty nice results. Let's see what we have right now. Oh, we have this. And it's a pretty nice sound, and it's completely new. No one has ever heard it before, unless somebody did the exact same action. So that's the first method, and then we can also hybridize favoring selected preset. And the way this works is if you have a list such as this, you can select one here. Let's see which one we like. And then you can hybridize favoring selected, and then it will mostly base the sound on the one sound that we selected here, and then it will use the other sounds to fill that out. Let's see if this gave us any useful results. I actually like that, and it is close to the original sound, but then different. All right, next up, and this one is really hidden, it's the drag export. This function, what it allows you to do is it will take the last note that was played in Serum, such as this C note, and this is actually being captured. And the way to access that is to hover on the top left of corner of Serum. And here you can, by the way, also change the skin, and you can change the size. But if you go even further to the top left, you can see this little arrow thingy here. And if we take that and drag that, we can get that same note in our arrangement window. This is the last note that we played. So this actually renders the audio for you. Just to do this again, let's play this note. And now we go here and we can drag it there. This is very handy because it's especially nice for effect sounds when you have an effect and you're playing around with it and you really like the last thing that you did, but perhaps you don't even know which note you pressed. You can use this feature. It's just a handy way of getting things out of Serum. Also, what I sometimes do is I will flip presets, play a note, and then I will drag that out. And then I flip another preset. Let's do this one. And I can take that as well. So it's a quick way of creating content. All right, on to the last and my favorite tip, which is modulating X and Y LFO points. So for this, I want to take a little bit of time. I want to first initialize my preset. Then I want to go with perhaps a chord sound. And let's arpeggiate that chord sound. And then let's actually use this feature. We're gonna find an LFO shape, drag that to the oscillator to render that. We could, this already looks good actually. And then we'll also use a regular saw wave with that. Both are gonna have some unison. And then what I'm going to do is I'm gonna set up a LFO to control the filter cutoff here to create sort of a rhythm. And let's try maybe without the arpeggiator. And And let's set this to trigger, and let's create some new points, which again, with holding Option, we can sync to the grid here. Now, what we can do here is we can assign any modulator to any of these points here. And the way to do that, let's first start with the macro. That's going to be easy. And we can hover over the point and we can control the X or the Y axis. Let's first try the X axis. And you can see this movement right here. If you now go to the matrix, you can see that it's assigned to a bus. And that's because these LFO assignments, they use buses rather than the actual points, because of course it doesn't know how many points you have created. So this is like, you can think of it as almost like a modulation bus basically. So now if I change this macro, I can change that value. I can also set this up to the Y axis, and I can move them both at the same time. So for that, we want to change the range a little bit. Perhaps we could invert this one so that it goes down. We can invert the other one as well. Oh, actually that won't work because this point right here is fixed. That only works if we put this one here. With this you can have lots and lots of fun. Let's try, for example, setting up the LFO in envelope mode, and let's remove the modulations for this point. And this point is gonna stay, let's keep it fixed here. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna create since this LFO is in envelope mode, we can create a loop back point. And what that will do is we'll start looping this last section right here, just to let you listen to that. And it will only start to over again when we have a new chord or a new note that's triggering the LFO. So now with this point, let's set up an LFO to control that point. So we can say Modulate X, and we can choose, let's choose LFO 3 for that. And now this LFO is going to control this point right here. So let's give it a little bit of movement here and let's see what it does. Alright, so it's now moving it in this direction, which again won't work because we have this point here. So we want to change that to a unipolar assignment. So now let's change this. Let's set it a little bit slower. So you can create very cool slowing down, speeding up effects. And of course, we can do this with multiple points. So here we could also control this with, let's say, LFO 4. And we can also set that up to be unipolar. And then if we go to LFO 4, let's set that to trigger. And now for all of these, we could scale this down with the macro. So we can say that we, for example, don't want this if the macro is all the way up. So to do that, we would modulate the Y level, I believe, and then we can set that down. And then we can do that for the other point as well, macro 1 to the, was this the right one? Yeah, to the Y level there. We set that down as well. So now with this, we should be able to scale those points down. And after this, we can still move these points as well. So this one can be a little bit closer there. All right, so that's it. And that last one, I really like this feature. So if you want to learn more about Serum and wavetable synthesis in general, please check out my course. You can find it in the description. It's filled with lots of advanced topics regarding this amazing synth. For now, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.